Case Study 3, Group 4, Rio Grande Medical Center, Wendy Scharnhorst. Overview. Rio Grande Medical Center is a full-service, not-for-profit acute care hospital with a 100,000 square feet section of the hospital devoted to outpatient services. 80% of the space is used for an outpatient clinic, and the remaining 20% is used by the dialysis center. Problem. The outpatient clinic has outgrown the current space and needs an additional 25% space to accommodate the growth. The decision was made to move the dialysis center so the outpatient clinic can expand to the full 100,000 square feet. A new off-campus facility was built for the dialysis center, and the new forecasted cost allocation with the new facility reflects a loss for the department. Find an alternative allocation method that can benefit both the outpatient clinic and the dialysis center. Is it fair for the dialysis center to suffer in profitability from the move even though it had nothing to do with it? No, it is not fair for the dialysis center to suffer in profitability for the move that was not prompted by the center itself. It would be fair for the dialysis center if the outpatient clinic were to absorb some of the cost of the new building and relocation of the dialysis center, since the move was made to accommodate them. Placing all the indirect cost of the move on the dialysis center would cause a net loss for the center and is not fair and a good practice for the Rio Grande Medical Center. Should the dialysis center be charged actual facility cost for the new location? After all, the move was forced by the outpatient clinic, which is being charged for facilities at the lower average allocation rate. Under the concept of charging for actual facilities cost, department heads might be better off resisting proposed moves to new and potentially more efficient facilities, because such moves would result in increased facility allocations. Before the move of the dialysis center, it was charged the facility cost of $300,000, which is $15 per square foot of the space it used. The outpatient clinic was also charged $15 per square foot for the space used. Under the initial allocation, all new facility costs of the $400,000 were allocated to the dialysis center, so therefore would now be paying $20 a square foot for the facility cost. Even though the dialysis center is the primary occupant of the new facility, it should not be charged the full amount of the facility cost. The move was forced by the outpatient clinic, and therefore they should feel the burden of the higher cost also. Even if the true cost concept were applied to the dialysis center, is the $400,000 annual allocation amount correct? After all, the building has a useful life that is probably significantly longer than 20 years, the life of the loan used to determine the allocation amount. If the true cost concept is applied, what would be the allocation in the 21st year after the mortgage has been paid off? No, the $400,000 only accounts for the loan amount that needs to be paid on the building. It does not take into account the original facility costs that were being charged due to being part of the Rio Grande Medical Center. Even though it would now have a separate building, the dialysis center is still in essence a part of the medical center, and therefore is entitled to the same allocated facility cost as the other departments. When the loan is paid off, I believe the dialysis center would still be expected to contribute to the allocated facility costs. The current cost of $15 per square foot equal to $300,000. But with inflation and depreciation costs, it could be larger on the 21st year after the mortgage is paid off. The revenue that the dialysis center receives from the patient use of the pharmacy appears to be passed on directly to the pharmacy. That is, the dialysis center books $800,000 for the drugs used. Should this revenue be counted when the general overhead allocations are made? To make his point, John discovered that the pharmacy used for dialysis actually cost the pharmacy $400,000. So the pharmacy makes a profit of $400,000 on drugs that are actually sold by the dialysis center. No, I don't feel that the $800,000 in revenue for pharmaceutical supplies should be counted when general overhead allocations are made. Essentially, it is not revenue because the expense is equal to the revenue, and the dialysis center is being held accountable for the revenue of the pharmacy department. The pharmacy department is the only one making revenue on this pharmaceutical supplies. The alternative that I would suggest is that the facilities costs for the dialysis center stay the same. The dialysis center net profit is 1.1% of the revenue. However, the outpatient clinic net profit is 21% of the revenue, and the outpatient clinic is the department that called for the move of the dialysis center. Therefore, I would raise the facility cost of the outpatient clinic by an additional $100,000 needed to cover the cost of the new facility. This change does not have a huge impact on the outpatient clinic. It only changes the net profit percent of revenue by 0.5%. This seems like a fair alternative to both departments involved. The outpatient clinic gets the space that it needs, and the dialysis center bottom line is not in the red.